right, the Campaign Sunday agenda rolls on. Now we've got Shadow Energy and Climate Change Minister Ted O'Brien joining us from the sunny coast. Ted O'Brien, thank you for joining us.
G'day, Andrew. Great to be with you.
Now, the government's argument on your gas reservation policy is they've already halved the gas price since they came to office, and you're promising to reduce it from $14 per kilojoule to $10. What do you say to that?
Well, I think it's more just a matter of look at the evidence rather than listen to what the Labor Party says, Andrew. The Labor Party introduced legislation to cap the price of gas at $12. Right now, it's over $14. Their policy has failed. What we have said is we need to get more gas out of the ground, prioritise that gas for the Australian people, and then get it to where it needs to be. And Peter Dutton outlined the initial scope of that in his budget reply speech, which includes a $1 billion critical gas infrastructure fund, $300 million for a strategic basins plan. We are going to halve the time when it comes to the environmental approval process, and we will introduce an East Coast gas reservation scheme. This means we'll be pouring more gas into the market and getting prices down, which is good for electricity, it's good for household gas prices, and it's really good in particular for industry, which provides all those goods that you buy from the supermarket or from the hardware store, which uses gas. That's our policy.
How much, because Peter Dutton said there'll be lower prices by the end of the year, how much are gas prices going down? How much are power bills going down because of gas-fired power, because of this?
So, Andrew, we'll release our full modelling through the course of the campaign, but Peter's already made clear that we're looking at gas going from over $14 today, this is the wholesale price, down to $10 or below.
And what does that mean
that's the objective.
What does that mean for the punter, for the small business, for the householder?
So when it comes to that modelling, that'll be released, but it's clear that it is far cheaper than what Labor has planned, and it is good news to the punter because it will come through power bills. I mean, if you look at Andrew,
why can't you just tell me how much? I mean, why are we waiting for the release of some modelling? If you make a promise like that, shouldn't you say, your bills are going down 10%, 30%, roughly 5%? Can't you just say that?
So, Andrew, you might remember you and I had lots of conversations around our nuclear energy plan. And when we came out and said we're looking at nuclear energy, immediately the question was, well, where are you going to put the plants? We answered that, and then it was immediately, what sort of plants? We answered that. But we do it in a way where this can resonate with the Australian people. Eventually, the question was on nuclear, how much is it going to cost? What's going to be the impact compared to Labor? We answered all that in good time. And so now we've announced a gas policy which will reform the market and ensure that Australian households, in the midst of a cost of living crisis, have a government which is acting with urgency. And that includes especially with gas, because under our plan, gas is the solution for the short term, just as zero emissions nuclear energy is the solution for the long term.
Because you're modelling...
Unlike Labor, we put forward a very clear policy.
Because your modelling has coal staying on as an important facet of the nuclear power plan. It doesn't really show extra gas into the system, right?
We haven't released that modelling, Andrew, if you're talking about the gas prices.
I'm talking about the Frontier Economics, the Frontier Economics nuclear plan.
I see. So the Frontier Economics nuclear plan made it very clear that we need to ensure, unlike Labor, that we do not prematurely close coal plants. Now, when it came to gas, as you'll see in that report by Frontier Economics, it accepted the pricing of gas that AEMO currently uses. But it makes the point that if you can get the price of gas down through a different gas policy, well, that has the opportunity to displace other forms of technology as part of a balanced energy mix. And so what we have already announced with respect to gas policy is consistent with that report. And what we will see is now a policy which will bring prices down. And Andrew, the way we do that is we decouple the domestic market from the international market. And that's key because we are awash with gas. Labor's answer is to import gas from overseas, which is daft. It'll send prices soaring. We may as well leverage our competitive advantage.
Labor had their $275 promise. Will you be putting a dollar figure on it, or have you seen the folly of that?
I think everybody's seen the folly of it. I gave Labor the benefit of the doubt, Andrew, early on in the term of government, that they just botched it. They got it wrong. But now it is a deliberate lie to the Australian people.
Will you be doing a dollar figure?
Anthony Albanese has not come clean on this. To this day, he will not concede that his promise for a $275 reduction in household power bills
I accept that, but my question is, will you be coming up with a dollar figure on power bills in this campaign?
We will not be doing what Labor did and making a promise about a $275 reduction in household power bills or anything like that, Andrew. I mean, this is why you need to be straight with the Australian people. You need to ensure you tackle challenging problems. And energy is challenging. And I can tell you, this reform that Peter Dutton has announced will be a massive change to our marketplace because we are decoupling the international market from the domestic market. We'll be ensuring that the three large LNG exporters out of Queensland pour an additional 50 to 100 petajoules into the domestic market over and above what it currently is estimated for within the first 12 months.
But I've just clarified with you, it's going to be less than $275 a saving on power bills, is it? And it's going to be a lot less from the sound of it.
Andrew, we are not going to be making a promise like Labor did, which ended up being not just a false promise, but a deliberate lie. We're not in that game. Labor can spruik all they like. They are a sales and marketing team for the union movement, and they will sell, sell, sell. Our policies have been based on engineering and economics. We've been very upfront all the way through. There's more we'll say. So it is a stark choice. But just going back to what we need to do, we need to ensure that Australian gas is used for the benefit of Australians first. And we can do that, by the way, as we look at those three big exporters, we can work with them to ensure the foundation contracts with our trading partners are absolutely honoured. And each of those big exporters will be equally obliged to make a contribution to see this policy work.
An industry person put an argument to me, Ted O'Brien, that if this is such a great solution, why does WA, who has a gas reservation, still have high bills?
So WA, I think, has done a very good job, far better, candidly, than the East Coast when it comes to establishing a gas reservation scheme. Now, what we are doing on the East Coast, our plan is not to holus bolus copy and paste WA. That is not what we're doing, which is why we've already announced a very specific target for the first 12 months. That is to add up to an additional 20% of gas into the supply on the East Coast. So we've set that range, and it'll be those three gas exporters who will be responsible to work with us on that. Meanwhile, Andrew, we're going to be doing everything we can to actually grow the pie, to make sure we have more gas coming out of the ground, because more gas means lower prices for Australians, and also we can get more gas to our overseas. But Australia has to come first in this, and we're not ashamed to say that. In fact, we're proud. Some people may not like it, some gas players may not like it, but to be candid, our focus is to work with urgency and to put the Australian people and Australian businesses at the centre. And it does provide a very stark choice for the Australian people here.
Who has suggested to you, who have you consulted with to establish this policy? Jason Clare said before it's basically Angus Taylor's old policy.
Well, he would say that, but it just goes to either the ignorance or the disingenuousness of him and the Labor Party. This is indeed a very unique policy in the Australian context. It is not a policy that's been put forward before. We are saying that we are introducing an East Coast gas reservation scheme. We've identified the range of petajoules we need to see go in. We've identified the projects, so the key consortia, the companies, which need to assist us doing that. We have identified the price that it needs to come down to. And why are we doing this? Because gas impacts even your groceries, right? Here I'm on the sunny coast, you said, Andrew, my constituents have been paying over 30% more when they go to the supermarket over the last few years since Labor came in. People are hurting every day. Small businesses, they use gas as their feedstock in order to run their businesses, let alone the big energy users, you know, which is why you've had the likes of BlueScope, big steel maker in Australia, saying, yes, we welcome the Coalition's policy. Why? It'll allow for more gas in the market, it'll get gas prices down, and it will provide for stability over time. So the big lift that you saw under Labor and down, that will not happen under this arrangement because we decouple Australia from the international market. That's the true value of this policy.
Ted O'Brien, when will the first nuclear power plant be up and running in this country if you're elected?
If it's a small modular reactor, the first year where you'll have the first electrons from the first unit, the first plant, will be 2035. And if it is a modern larger plant, it'll be over 2 years after then. And so in other words, mid to late 2030s.
And when will the second be in the system, and when will the third be in the system?
As you'll see through the plan we've already released in great detail, we are looking at a deployment all the way through to 2050 of 14 gigawatts. And so what happens is one of the reasons you can keep costs down on nuclear, lesson learnt around the world, is to ensure you have rapid deployment. Because what that means is you leverage the workforce, the supply chain, the costs, the procurement to roll this out. It's also why it's so important government owns these plants, that we understand the sites at which they're likely to be based. Of course, that's subject to feasibility studies and whatnot, but there's been an enormous amount of work done to identify those sites. We see no reason why that wouldn't be the case. So it would then happen immediately. What a lot of people don't realise is
how long would it take to set up a regulatory agency and have that fully considering your proposal, do you think?
That's a very short exercise, certainly all within the first term of government. And that is because, Andrew, we already have a nuclear technology regulator in Australia, APANSA, recognised around the world as best in class, and a recent House of Representatives Select Committee inquiry proved that, with international evidence being given, saying that Australia actually has all of the treaties in place to do nuclear energy already. We've already got a very sound regulatory body that needs to be expanded, no doubt, to licence and monitor nuclear energy power plants. But the best in the world are looking at Australia, saying you're already a nuclear nation, you have what it takes, you can decarbonise with nuclear at speed. But of course, now, till then, well, there's a decade, which is why you need to have a plan, and our plan is one which is still a balanced energy mix, but it means you do not close those coal plants prematurely, you pour more gas into the market as you continue to roll out renewables.
On the fuel excise cut promise, do you concede that fluctuations in the global oil price can wipe that out?
Well, Andrew, I think I'll let other commentators to, talk about different scenarios of what might happen with international prices. But our focus is to ensure that we can have immediate relief for the Australian people, immediate relief. And that is why we are looking at halving that fuel excise. Labor, by the way, is saying to the Australian people, we feel your pain, but wait 15 months and you'll get 70 cents a day. Labor just took $3,500 from taxpayers, more than they were paying 3 years ago. So they've taken $3,500 and now they're saying we're going to give back 70 cents a day in 15 months' time. I mean, seriously? Australians are hurting right now, and what Peter Dutton has demonstrated is an urgency on behalf of the coalition to ease people's pain, and that can be happening exactly immediately through the Bowser.
All right, briefly and finally, the PM started the campaign in Peter Dutton's own seat in Brisbane. Seemed pretty tactical. What did you make of that?
Oh, I think it's all just a marketing stunt on behalf of Anthony Albanese. So think about it. On the first day of the campaign, a marketing stunt, and today his big announcement is if any grocery company tries to, screw a consumer, he's going to set up, wait for it, a task force. I mean, the Prime Minister is weak, his team is not credible, they are incompetent, and as prices continue to rise, the best the Prime Minister has is he's going to have a task force established to look at it. That's his big reveal today, Andrew. Welcome to 2025 election.
Ted O'Brien, thanks for your time.
And for yours. Thanks, Andrew.